sleeper and would not wake up. After a long time, when the king finally opened his eyes, he saw Ngozi's face and felt a surge of horror and disgust. The scales had fallen off his eyes. He pushed her off him roughly and demanded to know who had let her into the palace and what she was doing in his bedchamber. Ngozi began to profess her love for the king and tried to remind him of their wedding only 2 years ago. But the king refused to listen and shouted even louder, "Get away from me, you witch! You have bewitched me and made me do horrible things to hurt the one I love." He began to remember everything that had happened and how he had treated Ifeoma, his true love. He remembered how he had been deceived by Ngozi, his enemy, and how he had made the terrible mistake of marrying her. Ngozi was shocked and terrified by the king's words. She saw the hatred and anger in his eyes. She knew that he had regained his senses and that he would never love her again. She felt a pang of fear and regret and wished that she had never met the witch or taken the poison and sold her soul. Ngozi ran out of the palace crying and screaming. She did not know where she was going or what she was doing, but she only wanted to escape from the king, and so she ran into the streets, pushing and screaming at anyone who stood in her way. She did not care about the people who stared at her, or the whispers of the villagers who recognized her as the queen. When she got to the market square, she felt a sudden rage and began to tear her clothes and curse at everyone. She wreaked havoc in the market, grabbing and throwing anything she could find. She screamed and cursed at everyone, accusing them of stealing her love and the throne. She accused them all of conspiring with the witch and Ifeoma to destroy her. After riding around for a while, the king spotted a lady that looked just like Ifeoma. As he got closer, he realized that she was the one. Ifeoma had been totally transformed. She hadn't lost any weight, but she looked very confident and well-groomed. She seemed to be very sure of herself and looked very attractive. Ifeoma had started a small business in the village after the king had broken her heart and married Ngozi. Even though she was heartbroken and depressed, she had not given up on life. She decided to use her talent for sewing to make beautiful dresses for plus-size women in the village, to make them feel beautiful, and this gained her the reputation of being a skilled and creative fashion designer. The king was stunned by Ifeoma's appearance. He saw how beautiful and confident she was, and how people seemed to admire and respect her. He realized how much he had missed her, and how much he needed to beg for her forgiveness. He wanted to make her his queen, and to spend the rest of his life with her. The king approached Ifeoma, who was busy sewing a dress for one of her customers. He called her name softly and she looked up. "Ifeoma, my love, please hear me out. I have come to apologize to you," he said. "I have been under a spell, a terrible spell, that made me forget you and fall in love with Ngozi. She was a witch who tricked me and made me do horrible things. But I have broken free from her spell, and I have remembered everything. You are the only one for me, Ifeoma. You are my true queen, and I want to marry you. Please forgive me. Give me another chance." The king spoke with sincerity and emotion, and tears filled his eyes. Ifeoma spoke with courage and honesty, and tears filled her eyes too. She looked at the king and saw the pain and love in his eyes. She felt a tug in her heart and a flicker of hope. She really wanted to believe him. The king spoke at length and begged Ifeoma for her forgiveness. He told her that he loved her and he wanted a future with her. When Ifeoma realized that the king was telling the truth and that he had truly been under a spell, she decided to forgive him. She looked at him and saw his kind, handsome face. He was the king, her king, the one she loved, and the one who loved her. When they got back to the palace, they announced their engagement and quickly began to prepare for the wedding. The villagers cheered and celebrated and wished them happiness and prosperity. The king and Ifeoma got married and lived happily ever after. They had many children and ruled the kingdom with wisdom and justice. Ngozi, on the other hand, never regained her sanity. She wandered the land, alone and miserable, muttering to herself about the king and Ifeoma. She was cursed and tormented by the witch who had taken her soul. She suffered and regretted her actions, but it was too late. The end. The moral of the story is, no matter what you look like, you are beautiful and worthy of love. Your appearance does not define your value or your happiness, and the most important person to accept and appreciate you is yourself. When you love yourself, you will attract love from others as well.